Today we're talking about 5 things I wish I knew before I became a youth pastor. And stick around to the end because we're going to talk about our new question of the day.
Welcome to another episode of the Ministry Coach Podcast, where we bring you weekly tips and tactics to help you fast track the growth and health of your youth ministry. If this is your first time watching or listening, welcome, and make sure you hit that subscribe and like button. My name is Jeff Lascola. This is
Kristen Lascola. Duh.
Yeah, duh. I've only been doing this like forever. What is today's topic?
So we're talking about 5 things I wish I knew before I got started all those years ago in youth ministry.
Okay.
Yeah. So I kind of want to say what I wish someone had told me, but I don't think anyone could tell me these things.
Okay.
I think there are things that you have to learn, but either way, they're things I wish I knew. And if you're just starting out in youth ministry, maybe you're in your first 5 years. I consider that just starting out.
Your rookie season is your first 5 years?
Yeah, for sure. You can't know anything until you've been doing it for 5 years, at least. So, not that you can't know anything, but you can't gauge your performance very well until you've been there for quite a while, maybe graduated a whole class through. This is maybe what I wish someone would have told me just to give me a little bit of perspective.
Okay.
So number 1, we're going to start off with a real downer. All right. They're not all downers, but my mantra, you may have heard it before when I'm training up interns or leaders or future pastors, they always fill in the blank. What does Kristen always say about leadership? Leadership isn't
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So number 1, I wish someone had told me leadership isn't fun. It's really hard and it's really messy. And I'm sure for most of you, that's like, duh. But I think sometimes there was this thing of like, you'd see someone on stage and they were in charge and they were the pastor and you just thought like, whoa, like how cool, they've arrived. And when you get there, you're like, oh, this is not super fun. Like now I have to do all the really hard things. And I think the hardest things being a pastor that you have to do that nobody else can do is like have really awful and hard conversations with people. Like when bad stuff happens or discipline needs to take place or when you need to confront someone and especially like, that saying, don't mix business with pleasure. Like everyone we work with is a friend, basically. Yeah. Every leader is a friend. Every parent is a potential friend, maybe. Like students are friends. And so when you have to then intersect that with discipline or consequence or something really messy and hard to walk through, it's like, this isn't just like a customer. This is someone who you've created a relationship and a bond with, and now you have to like do something hard. I hate it. I hate that. And I don't think it ever, like, I get more comfortable with conflict. Like, I know I can do it, but it's still a heavy weight that we carry as leaders.
You'd be a pretty odd person if you were like, yay, conflict. I don't know if anybody ever really gets...
sociopath.
Yeah, that's what you'd be classified as. Ooh, conflict. Let me go.
Let's stir up some. You sounded like Yoda when you said that.
Well, I channel a lot of wisdom. I don't know if you've noticed that.
I haven't.
I'm not just a pretty face, believe it or not.
Yeah, like, and along with that, maybe along the same lines, I heard one of our pastors say once, as a leader, you have to learn to live with low levels of frustration. And people think that means like, well, you're just going to be frustrated. And he's like, no, low levels of frustration with you. Like people will always have low levels of frustration with you. And the more people you lead and the bigger your ministry gets, there's more potential for people to be mad at you or frustrated with you or not like what you do or have a problem with something. And depending on your level of people pleaserness, that could be really difficult for someone. And I want people to like me And depending on what I'm going through personally, I can either take it or not. Like sometimes it like devastates me. Like they hate me. They're mad at me. Oh, I feel so guilty. I did something wrong. And then other seasons when I feel a little more confident, I'm like, well, it's their problem. I can move on. It just totally depends. And that's kind of like the human condition, I guess, in a lot of ways. But, and along with that, I didn't number this one, but it goes along with the leadership thing is, we always want our ministries to be bigger. And what I wish someone would have told me is buckle up, because yes, we want our ministries to grow because that means more people are hearing about Jesus, Avi, right? But at the same time, that will not solve any of your ministry problems. It will create hundreds of new ones. And if I'm being super honest, I was the happiest in ministry when my ministry was the smallest.
Ooh, careful what you wish for.
I know. And the reason for that is I got to be a pastor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, a pastor of your students,
yes.
Whereas now you're a pastor of leaders.
Yeah, which I still love. My leaders are awesome, but I love middle schoolers. I always will. Like I have a middle school hole shaped in my heart. Like I love them. And sometimes on a Tuesday, it like kind of kills me. It's like I had to do all the leader stuff so that my leaders could be the pastors, and I don't think I saw that coming. And I've talked about that before, but it's just, everyone's like, grow your ministry. And it's like, yeah, because everyone needs Jesus. But at the same time, just understand you will go through some leadership changes when you grow. And that's just it. And that's a sacrifice you make, because ministry is not for your own personal fulfillment. It's to fulfill the Great Commission. So, deal with it. Deal with the Great Commission. And as leaders, we do the dirty work a lot of times. You do the hard stuff. You do the stuff that's not as much fun or that's requires the most courage. And, we take those hits for our team. So all that to wrap up and say, number one is leadership is hard. It's super hard. And be prepared for that. Number two, fruit comes eventually, and the best fruit takes the longest to come. So don't miss it. Stay there so you can enjoy the fruit. And this, I feel like the fruit that takes the longest to come, especially if you work with middle schoolers, you might be like, fruit schmoot. Like, where is this the fruit you speak of? I scrape gum off the pavement every week. Yes, I know. Hang on, though. Here's the sweetest fruit of ministry. It was not when my sixth graders went to seventh or seventh to eighth or eighth even to ninth. It was when those eighth graders were seniors and graduated, and then I get a call or a text or an email, or we bump into each other at church. In fact, I got one tonight. I was writing this content and I got a text from an ex-student who said, hey, me and my friend miss your program so much. We had so much fun, so many good memories. We were really interested in coming back as leaders. Can we come and check it out? Totally. Then it's just this revolving door of recruitment. And the sweetest part is you already know them and they already know your ministry and they're so hyped. And it's just like them just with all of the fruit you had always hoped for, and now they're like more of your peer and your friend. And it's just such a cool season. Getting to watch students come back and be leaders is probably one of my hands down favorite part of ministry. And I've said this before, about 90% of my staff are former students, mostly leadership students. That's why it's really important to have a leadership program, because you're training them all the way back in junior high, and they'll stick in the church and they'll stick with it when they feel like a place of purpose. But, another cool thing is this season, I am performing the wedding of a student that I baptized in junior high.
Oh, I forgot you baptized.
Yeah.
her.
So I have a picture of me and her at Forest Home Camp, and we're just getting out of the pool or the lake or whatever it is. And I had baptized her, she accepted Jesus. And now all these years later, I'm getting to like perform her wedding. It's like, whoa, like that seems full circle. You know, she's one of my leaders. Her fiance is my worship leader. It's just like, whoa, like keeping these people around and watching like what comes from their life is just, I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I've had some leaders that I've got to launch to become pastors or, you know, use their leadership in other ways. And it's just like amazing. So stick around because the fruit that comes later on is the best.
Yeah.
You know?
I guess if you're in high school, you have fewer years to wait around too, because if you're waiting for them to graduate, because you can't just graduate a junior higher into high school and be like, you're a freshman, you're clearly mature, come back and be a leader. You have to wait for them to fully season to become after.
But the high school ministry, it's not like, okay, you're a senior, come back and lead. Because the kids don't respect them. They're like,
that's the whole like you were one of us and now you're our boss.
Yes,
I don't like you.
It doesn't work.
So what's usually
they come to me because there's a big enough age gap.
So then they have to graduate from college before they come back to high school.
That's a hard one. I feel for high school leaders because you have it's not. We've tried that before and it's been really rough like on those like, I guess freshmen in college, because everyone's like, who do you think you are?
Right,
you know,
a day out of graduation.
Totally.
How are you my leader?
But when they come back for the junior hires, they're like, ooh, you're young and fun. And like, my sister knows you. And, you know, it's more of like a big brother, big sister vibe. And they love it. So high schoolers, I feel like you have to jump to at least second or third year of college or else it's a little weird, you know. I don't know. I feel bad for them, but I get the gold.
4 years later.
Yeah. 4 years. I had to wait a long time for that. All right. Number 3, there will be peaks and valleys. Ride them both out. Do not panic. Okay. So obviously there's peaks when everything's going well and your numbers are strong and you have a great staff and you love who you work with and you feel just like you're in the zone. And then all of a sudden a dark cloud called second semester 8th graders will come and they will rain all over everything you worked for. And then you will need a security team and then you will need security cameras and then you will need chaperones guarding the bathrooms. True stories. And you will just feel like all of a sudden you'll look around and you're like, where am I? Right. Juvenile hall? Like I did not sign up for this. But do not panic because there will come a time when they graduate and then your classes, cycle over and there will be a fresh wind that comes in. And also there's like peaks and valleys in your own personal leadership. There's times where you just feel like, yeah, like I love my job. I got this. And there's other times where you're like, what am I even doing with my life? Like what? Like
I got hit in the face with a dodgeball and it had whipped cream on it.
Like one night I was speaking and a yellow Sour Patch Kid hit me right in the eye. And I had this moment of like, what am I doing with my life? I spent
graduated sum laude. No.
Kuma. Sum laude. What? You messed me up.
I barely graduated, so I don't know those terms.
Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm having a brain spasm.
Cum laude?
Yeah.
Magna cum laude? You were magna cum laude?
No, I think I'm just cum laude.
I don't know what they mean. It sounds fancy.
All I know is I had the right GPA.
All I know is somewhere in my folders there is a piece of paper that said I was there and I graduated. That's all I care about.
No, I was cum laude, okay? You got a special little sash or something.
I got a participation trophy. That's what I got for going to college. You were here sometimes. Good job.
Right. And then you work so hard on things and then you just feel like they get trampled on,
totally.
And I remember I was like dead in the middle of this message and I felt like the Holy Spirit and I were just like jiving and going and going. And this kid raises his hand and I think like, yes, like we're together. And he goes, do you know there's like these black holes in space that are actually in the shape of like an hourglass? And I was just like,
yeah, duh. I graduated cum laude.
Help me. And it was like my balloon just like, and I'm like, It's sometimes it's hard, you know.
But to show that God is in full control, you can also have the message where you're like, where am I going with this? This is horrible. This isn't what I wanted to say. Like, I'm all over the place. And then kids are like crying because they had a moment and it was like amazing. So
yeah, for sure. And that's why you got to stick around.
Yeah.
Because if you judge your performance off of one sermon or one event or one bad conversation with a parent or an awful class, I get a really bad class probably every 4 years. Like some like bad class comes through that makes me question my calling and like, this can't be God's plan for my life to work with these hoodlums. And then the clouds clear and the sunshine shines again, and you just have to learn how to ride the waves.
Yeah.
Don't pull the ripcord too soon, because then you miss out on what we just talked about, is that great fruit and watching what God's going to do. We have to commit to be in ministry for the good times, the bad times. And let me tell you, sometimes those hard seasons, it's not just a semester.
Yeah.
It's not just a year. You know, I went through a really dry season in ministry where it felt like every day I was like going uphill, and that lasted for a couple years, few years. I mean, it was
class graduated.
It was really, really hard. And so just know that you are there because God has called you and you can do it, and don't just, you know, push eject.
Sure, why not?
I
don't know.
Like when they go out of the airplane.
Right. No, it's,
Eject. Okay.
Pull eject, push eject.
Tom Cruise, what is it? Is it push or pull?
Siri, I need to eject. Can you please push or pull whatever I need to do? Tell Alexa. I remember that one time I gave a message for the junior hires. I thought it went okay. And I asked the student to pray at the end, and he said something like, "Dear God, we thank you for this message, even though we didn't learn anything today." I was like, thanks for adding that in there so that I could hear that too. That was awesome.
So humble.
Yeah, very, very honest, though.
And that is what it means. When people say, I'm so humbled, that is the correct circumstance. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, I just won a Grammy. I'm so humbled. No, you're not. You're humbled when a junior hire prays at the end of your sermon. Your place. That's humbled.
Yeah.
Let's use this word correctly, people.
We talked about that in a previous episode.
We did.
I think.
It bugs me. It's my life pet peeve, I think, because it comes up a lot for me.
I feel like generally in this day and age, the only time someone uses the word humble is where it's bragging.
Right.
And I guess that's where the humble brag comes from.
It's weird. I'm humbled constantly. Like, I think I'm doing great. And then I gave what I thought was one of my best messages, kind of like you. And this happened literally 3 months ago. This kid comes up to me after and just looks me dead in the face and goes, "That was so boring." And I cried on the inside. I was just like, "Oh, you're so mean." Remember John Mulaney? He says 8th graders are the meanest people in the world.
It's true.
This kid wasn't even in 8th grade. He was in, I think, 7th grade. And he just said, "That was so boring." And he goes, "I didn't even know what you were talking about." I was like, ouch. And that was one of those messages where I walk off the stage
notes?
like, that it's so good, whatever. Humbled, hashtag humbled my socks off.
And that is the correct use of the term humbled.
That is. Okay. All right. Number 4, be realistic in your expectation of your senior pastor. So this one, I think, trips people up a lot because I've worked with a lot of youth pastors, and this is a recurring complaint. And it's a tricky relationship. But here's what makes me really sad is when that becomes a make or break of whether you stay or go. And here's what I would say to that is remember who your audience is. In our books for youth ministry, we recommended a book called 200 Pomegranates in an Audience of One. I think the author is, I always want to say Shaun White, but that's a snowboarder.
Yeah.
Shaun Wood.
Sure. I think that's right.
Something like that. And the whole book is him saying your most beautiful offering to God is for God. So if other people criticize and shun and whatever, make sure you just stay in the zone of like, I work for God. I don't work for my senior pastor. I don't work for the elders. I don't work for the denomination. I work for God.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we keep that perspective of I am obedient to what he's asked me to do, I'm doing my best, I'm obedient to what he's called me to do, it doesn't completely silence the voice of our senior pastor if you work for a really critical one or one that you just feel like you're not getting along with, but it hopefully can bring some perspective. And I guess using that lens in everything you do in ministry, like that kid who told me my message was boring. Guess what? It wasn't for you. It was for God. Okay. And he loved it.
I wasn't even talking to you.
Guy, do you even go here? What's your name? So it's keeping that perspective of who do you work for?
Yeah.
And I've had to come back to that. I mean, I could name a million scenarios of where I've had to re-ground myself and say, who do I work for? Who do I work for? Who do I work for?
But you have actually been really lucky to have worked for
and
great
that's why I
senior
say
pastors.
a million scenarios, because I'm not just talking about senior pastors.
Right.
I'm talking about keeping that perspective of audience. Yes, I have had great senior pastors.
Just in case they're listening.
They're the best. I love you guys.
Yay.
But it's like that is the filter that you do your job through.
Totally.
All right. And then number 5, build relationships everywhere and say yes to as much as possible. So there's so many random relationships that have like, I hate to say it this way, but like come in handy over the years. Like, for example, you're going to camp and you need someone who can tow a trailer because you have a bunch of stuff. Oh my gosh, that one dad that has a truck and a hitch, and we have a pretty good relationship. I always go out of my way to say hi. Maybe he would do me a favor, you know, like you just want to know as many people as possible because there's going to be little roles, not always to your benefit, but for also their benefit. Like there's so many random roles that I've been able to fill or help with or do things for people or, you know, come to the rescue on stuff because we had a little bit of a rapport and vice versa. Like the bigger your network is, the better equipped you are to do some weird stuff that'll come up, you know, and saying yes to as much as possible. And that'll come back to you.
And it needs to be an active and organic network.
Yeah. I
so
like the
that
way you
it's
said that.
not, I remember 4 years ago, I saw in your truck, you had a hitch on your bumper. So now I'm going to come randomly and ask you for this. But when it's active and organic, then I feel like you can come in, hey, we talk often. Yeah. This is not out of the blue. Like where they're like, Kristen, who?
Right.
You know?
And that's like the whole thing. Like you just have to be so highly relational, like inside and outside of your ministry, you know? So mingling at church afterwards, getting to know people in Bible studies, serving at different things so you run into people, participating in your local schools events so that you meet teachers and coaches. Like you never know when you're going to need the relationship with the school. You never know when you're going to need a relationship with some local community organization or where they're going to need you. Like I got asked to speak at some random thing in our community this year and it was awesome. Like it was a great opportunity. And it was because we attended some like tour they did, or I knew a mom that worked there. Like just like weird stuff comes up, but just put yourself out there, say yes, be available, be present. Don't be the pastor that like is too busy for people, that hides in their office, that doesn't attend games or events or plays or performances or like know anyone other than like your little clique, but you know, spread yourself out, you know, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So that goes really, really far. You know, and it's not like so that you can use people, like keep a little file of like all these people you're going to ask to do
talking about it
things.
going both ways. there have been service projects that the church has done for people or organizations because of the relationship we had. So it was like, we're coming to you because we know that you guys could use this or be blessed by this.
Totally.
Maybe because they were also really nice people, and you know a little about them to know that they have a need for that. Whereas if it was, you didn't know them at all, it's like, well, then I don't know what you need and I can't help you.
Totally.
So it does go both ways.
You know what I just thought of as I was looking into your eyes?
Okay.
One time I asked Chris Brown, our senior pastor, who I love so much. I really do. Chris is one of my favorite people. I said, what was the best decision you ever made in ministry? You know what he said? Marrying my wife, Amy. I could not do ministry without her. So if you're listening to this and you're single, something else someone might want to tell you is choose your spouse carefully if you choose to do ministry for the long haul, because they're going to need to be in. Not that they have to serve with you, but they need to understand what they're in for and be totally on board to support that. So just a little PSA for the single peeps out there. So I'm so glad I married Jeff.
I was hoping that this would come around to be me. So.
I finally know why I married. Just kidding.
Because I helped you burp in sentences.
It's come in handy for middle school ministry.
Bet.
They really admire that quality in me. No, like it's been like Jeff gets ministry. He gets church life. He has a vested interest in it. He used to be one of my volunteers. He can't right now, but it was so cool to
That sounds weird.
Because
he's not allowed to anymore.
We had to ask him to step down. Remember what I said? Leadership is hard. It's hard because sometimes you gotta let them down easy.
Well, whatever. I don't even miss it. So there. Yeah. No, we had kids, and so I had to stay home and have a smaller youth group. So. Anyways, well, we promised you guys a question of the day.
Oh,
this might become something that's a regular thing. Maybe not. So we'll see. So the question we're going to have this week, and I would encourage you all to reply in the comments what your answer would be. But the question I have is, what is a movie that as a child freaked you out, whether you saw it or not? Like the idea of it, or that, you watched it and it scared you forever.
I didn't even have to think about it. Nightmare on Elm Street.
Okay.
I never saw it. I saw the previews on TV. All I needed to see was that face. Freddy Krueger. Yeah. He never left. I used to think he lived under my bed. I wouldn't get out of my bed at night, so much so that I peed my bed once because I was too afraid to get out because he was going to grab my legs and pull me under. And I just could not get the image of his face and those knife hands out of my head for years. I was so scared. Yeah. It scared the heck out of me.
For me, it was The Dark Crystal, a Jim Henson.
Isn't that a Muppet movie?
Yeah. But the thing is, it's even described, if you look it up, as dark fantasy. I never saw it. As an adult, I'm still a little afraid to see it.
Really?
And there's a part of me that's like, I kind of want to see it to maybe get past that fear. Not that it
we can do this.
Not that it paralyzes me in my day-to-day activities, but yeah, it's freaky the way the characters look. And I feel like it's not even so much the scary characters, even the good guys.
Really?
Yeah. They're
what it kind of reminds me of? In modern terms, because that's an old movie, would be
it's very old.
Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. That. They're puppet things.
Oh, okay.
But I get really uncomfortable when I watch those.
Puppets are creepy.
I don't have a problem with Muppets.
Maybe a little bit sometimes.
I mean, except for Sweetums, he's weird. But the other ones, they're fine. But yeah, it's that weird.
Okay, it's the humanish looking puppets or Muppets or whatever. Those kind of frighten me.
Oh, got it. Okay.
And these were kind of oddly realistic looking.
Ew.
So, anyways, and there was a girl in my high school who kind of looked like one. She scared me. That's a whole different story though. Go ahead and comment below what your movie is that scared the heck out of you when you were little, or maybe even as an adult. That counts too. So we thank you guys so much for watching and listening, and we will see you next time.